I'm very happy to have an expert with us. She has taken the trouble to find the time, even though she's driving in a car. You see the seat belt across her, it's a very good sign. So, right now, we have with us an expert in international relations, Dr. Sampa Kundu. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Mathu. Thank you for inviting me for this, conversation. So my name is, as you already mentioned, my name is Dr. Sampa Kundu, and I have completed my PhD from JNU, New Delhi. So it was in the year 2010 when I started my PhD in international relations, and I completed it in within 4 years of time. And I worked on India and Myanmar in BIMSTEC implications for Northeast India, which basically means that I have, researched on the bilateral relationship between India and Myanmar, but I have also watched and I have also observed how a regional cooperation or a sub-regional cooperation can enhance a bilateral partnership in this part of the continent. And I'm talking about South Asia and Southeast Asia. I'm sure all of you know about the geography of South Asia and Southeast Asia. Myanmar is the only connecting link between South Asia and Southeast Asia. So India has border with all South Asian member countries, SAARC member countries. India has border with Myanmar, and from Myanmar, Southeast Asia, geographically Southeast Asia starts, right? So Myanmar is geostrategically very important country both for South Asia and Southeast Asia. Having said that, let me begin my personal introduction. So I'm originally from Kolkata, West Bengal, um, which is one of the eastern states in India. And all my education, all my studies, etc., I have done from Kolkata itself. Only my PhD was from Delhi, JNU. So yeah, that way I'm a very much Bengali, and I love my fish curry. Having said that, I also have traveled to various parts of the world, particularly in Asia, Southeast Asia, and also a few countries in Europe. So I consider myself a global citizen, and I think that is one of the opportunities that very few scholars in Asia, particularly in India, they receive. So I consider myself very lucky that way. Coming to my career point of view, you can just tell me when I have to stop if there is anything like that. Otherwise, I will just continue talking about myself. Okay. So talking about my career, I started my career in NGO, actually, in the development sector when I was doing my master's itself. So I was working with an NGO that is called Sini Asha. That NGO particularly looks at the deprived urban children, their education, their health, their protection, child protection, etc. So I was associated with a program that was looking at the education, mainstream education of the deprived urban children. So we had a very good, program for that. After that, I continued in the NGO sector for another 2.5 years before I came to Delhi for my PhD. So my PhD actually, was a turning point for my life, because after that I only continued working in the international relations sector or field, you can say. So right now I am a consultant at a reputed think tank, and we are affiliated with Ministry of External Affairs. I will not going to name the think tank name here, but we look at ASEAN, we look at Indo-Pacific, and we look at India's foreign policy with the ASEAN member countries, that are the Southeast Asian countries. So yeah, that is about my career. Regarding Myanmar, I will share a few points. Why I'm sharing my observations about Myanmar, let me first tell you that, because um, Myanmar is a country that is very closely, I'm very close to that country, not for anything else, but because I have spent so much of time studying that particular country. And now that all of us know that what is happening inside Myanmar, the internal conflicts that are happening inside the country involving the military junta and the ethnic armed groups, and also the elected government who are right now in exile, and they are, operating, uh, under very much, under very, uh, under a lot of difficulties, I would say. So Myanmar is a country, is a very interesting, element in the Asian politics, in the Asian geopolitics. Not only for, not only because of the internal conflicts that Myanmar faces, and let me tell you, these internal conflicts are nothing new, because all of us know about the last military coup that happened in February 2021, but even before that, there were rounds of military coup in Myanmar. And the country got independence just 1 year after our independence, after India's independence. So in 1948, Myanmar got its independence. That time it was called Burma. But then, after a few years, after the assassination of their first, the leader, the statesman, uh, General Aung San, the country went under severe turmoil in terms of economy, in terms of the social sector, in terms of political developments, in terms of ethnic conflicts, uh, so many other things, right? So for all those conflicts, the country kind of has not been benefited from the geostrategic location that it has. The geostrategic location that I mentioned in the beginning. So for these reasons, Myanmar is always in the eyeballs of the political observers. They have always expressed their interest in studying Myanmar. So in my observation, Myanmar gives us few lessons. If we are closely watching the Asian affairs, Asian geopolitical affairs, there are few lessons that we can draw from Myanmar. Number one, um, Myanmar is a country that needs, constant diplomacy, and um, here is the importance of diplomacy. So when we see any conflict, any internal conflict or domestic conflict that is hitting a country so hard for so long time, uh, we can always ask that what can the international community do for that country, right? So what is the role of the international community, international players, or for that matter, the superpowers like USA, China, Russia? I mean, Russia is not a superpower anymore, but at least Russia has a very important participation, very important stakes in Myanmar's conflict. So, what role these international players are playing in Myanmar? So, if you look closely, you will find out that every one of these countries that I mentioned, China, Russia, and USA, they have their own interests, and for that matter, they somehow, been a little bit vague about their approaches towards Myanmar. So that's one point, that how diplomacy can help resolve the crisis in Myanmar. Second point is, from Myanmar's perspective, that how they can utilize the regional organization where they are part of. Here I'm talking about ASEAN. So in 1997, Myanmar got its membership in ASEAN. And ASEAN, we all know that it is considered to be a very successful regional organization, at least in the Asian geopolitical scenario, because we have seen that rise of the Asian tigers, and some of those very powerful economies are from the ASEAN region. So ASEAN definitely has a very important role to play in Myanmar's conflict. So the question arises here is, what is ASEAN doing? What are ASEAN's contributions in resolving the crisis? Because the crisis is not only a political crisis, but a humanitarian crisis, right? So, like, lakhs of people are suffering inside the country, and they are getting homeless. They are getting, they don't have access to proper health, proper education. Uh, like basic human rights are lacked. So, what can ASEAN do, and what are ASEAN's contributions? ASEAN has a center which is called ASEAN Humanitarian Center. I'm forgetting the full name, but it is called ASEAN, and they are playing wonderful role. They are, reaching out to the Myanmar junta. They are reaching out to the Myanmar civil society groups with humanitarian need. But then the question is, while on the ground, we are providing humanitarian assistance and all, and that is fine. But then at the end of the day, in the long run, we have to think about a permanent solution to crisis. And here, I believe ASEAN is not that successful. Because ASEAN has a norm, a principle that ASEAN will not interfere in the internal affairs of any of its member countries, which basically means that if something is happening inside a country and if that is considered to be a domestic situation, then ASEAN will not interfere until unless it goes beyond the country and it is hampering other countries and their interests. Here you can argue that Myanmar crisis is definitely hampering the regional stability, regional security. So then why ASEAN is quiet? ASEAN is not quiet. ASEAN has come up with its 5-point consensus and all. But then it is not helpful because Myanmar's junta, they are in a position where they can actually ignore this kind of quiet diplomacy. So here again, we can come back to the question of diplomacy, that what role diplomacy has to play in resolving a crisis through a regional organization like ASEAN. So these are few questions that are very important for international relations perspective also, because you introduced myself as an IR expert, so I felt little like motivated to talk about IR perspective as well. Then the third thing is whether this crisis is humanitarian crisis or whether this is a mix of humanitarian crisis and religious crisis, or whether it is a mix humanitarian, religious and political conflict. So this is a mix of everything. So the situation is very complicated, where you will find that not only ethnic armed organizations are involved, but Myanmar government is involved. Uh, the Buddhist religious sanghas, they are involved, and also the civil society organizations, they are involved. Of course, we all know that the Rohingya refugee crisis and how that crisis has its lingering impact on South Asian countries like Bangladesh and also on India, right? So that is also involved. So, this is like United Nations Secretary General has once said that this is a grave security situation which needs everyone's attention, not from one party or not from two parties, but from everyone who are watching the problem or who are suffering from this problem. So that is again another lesson that we can draw from Myanmar, that how a traditional security situation can actually, cross a boundary and go to the limits of non-traditional security issues. So that is my third point. Uh, Fourth point is how Myanmar is, basically managing its relations. Like so far, whatever I have said, you will find that all these things are very complicated problems that the country is facing. So then, what is the impact on the country, or what is the impact on the country's government? So are they, facing an international backlash? Yes, they are facing it. Are they impacted by it? No, they are not impacted by it, because again, it is, a country uh, that has maintained bilateral relations most of its neighbors, including India, ASEAN countries, of course. It also has a bilateral relationship partnership with Russia, China, uh, both the Koreas, US, so many other countries. Of course, US sanctions and other Western countries. Australia also, they have imposed sanctions, limited sanctions on the military junta, some of their leaders and some of their close associates. But then it is not the end, because there are allegations that they have close defense partnerships with countries like Russia and China. All their defense exports are coming from. So that way they are very secure and they know that, okay, we have got our friends. Having said that, in the last few months, the situation in Myanmar has really changed. So now the ethnic armed groups and their associates, they have actually occupied a significant part of the country. And it is being said that the Myanmar junta military government, they are losing their ground. So we for a solution in the maybe in the next year or next to next year, whenever there will be a general election. So that is about Myanmar. Now I come back to my you know like you can say that it is another very interesting thing that I want to focus, and that is about Bengali literature. So you can say that why such a deviation from foreign policy and international relations to Bengali literature, and I will answer that question a little later. Bengali literature, because I am a Bengali, I have grown up in a middle class Bengali family, and I have always spent my vacation times in reading Bengali literature, classics by Rabindranath Tagore, Sarachandra Chattopadhyay, and then Satyajit. So here I'm going to focus on a detective storyline that was written by Satyajit Ray, and it is about Feluda. I'm not sure if you know about him. Feluda is a Bengali detective, fictional character, detective character, and there are multiple stories, multiple series written on him by Ray. So why this is important? Because while today morning I was thinking that how should I link myself and my childhood with the analytical skills that I have got in international relations, I thought that this is the linkage. Because when I was reading these detective stories, I found that uh, you know, they have analytical skills, they have observational skills, they also do have a, a capability to understand the inner meaning of something that is happening over the ground. It means that if there is a statement issued by the government, any government or anybody in the world, uh, what does that statement say? Of course there will be lines that you can read, but then between the lines there are always the inner meaning, and it is very important to understand that inner meaning if you want to understand or if you want to watch international elections. So I think the observational skills and the analytical skills that Feluda has, I think while reading those stories in my childhood, I have somehow embraced them, and those are very much helpful for me while I am doing my studies right now. So yeah, that's about it. And I don't know how much time I have taken, but I think I will stop here. And if you have any other questions, you can ask. You're
Before I
muted.
ask any questions, I forgot to tell you that we now have a new feature, an option in this series that people can speak in their mother tongue for a few minutes. And people have used it, Bhojpuri, Malayalam, Gujarati, Bengali. So since you are so fond of Bengali literature, perhaps if you want to speak in Bengali for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that would be welcome. And if you want to take some time to prepare it, I can put you on pause. And then when you come back with the talk,
I
so
think
it's your
I think
option.
it's yeah, I think it's fine. We can just continue speaking in English. Bengali, maybe we can do another another record
Okay,
uh,
fine. All right,
some
wonderful.
other time.
It's just your choice. Okay, so thank you so much for discussion of the importance and relations with Myanmar. It's a subject that most people are not really aware of. It doesn't, figure large except the Rohingya in India. But of course, as you rightly said, we are close to it and we should know it. And in fact, it's very much my thinking that we focus not enough on our neighboring countries. We really need to have more knowledge, and not just experts, but the young people who call themselves global, but they don't know a thing about the region. They call global means know about the West. And I live in the West, so I'm happy to say that, look, why don't you also focus a little bit more on the region? And after all, we are going to live there with those people forever. So we better have a good understanding, at least on a personal to personal level, or at least some better understanding. And unfortunately, our curriculum and our approach doesn't really focus on that. So I'm very glad that you have taken this and you brought it to our attention that, look, it's a big country, it's sitting right next to you, and you better know it'll be good if we understand and people have a feeling, so that, and also if you think you're going to be a regional power in 20-25 years, you can't be a regional power if you don't know your region. It's very simple. To be a region, and you certainly can't, you could be a regional power, but you can't be a regional leader if you don't know who your followers are. You have to know your followers, you have to understand them. So that's my point. We had an internet glitch there and we are back. So I just summarized by saying that in especially young Indians, they need to have a better feel for our neighboring countries than we have. And all we have right now is mainly that we play cricket against Pakistan and enjoy it when we win and feel sad when we lose. That cannot be our understanding of our region. It has to be more than that. Okay. All right. Let me just ask you if you have anything else you want to add.
Not really, but yeah,
Any tips
I
for
would
young
request,
people?
as you requested and as you mentioned that India's neighborhood is very interesting. Uh, you know, they are not only offer you great insights into international relations, but they also offer you great insights into our civilization. We all know about Kautilya's Arthashastra, right? And how, like 1,000 years ago, he had already articulated a country's foreign policy in such a nice way. I don't think any Western, there is no parallel, or I'm not attempting to compare anyone with other scholar. But then what we have in our own civilization, I think that is very great, and everyone should learn about it. Everyone should know about it, and that learning should start from the home. You know, uh, the home we call South Asia.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
So
make this a Desi channel, to be honest. I don't want it to be an Indian channel. I want it to be a Desi channel. And I've already had some people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. I've had no one from Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Maldives, or Myanmar, but I'm certainly interested in pushing this as a Desi channel. I also have one person from Afghanistan, but it's not, for me, it's not an international forum. When you come from Pakistan and you speak, you aren't speaking for Pakistan. You're just speaking as a Pakistani. You understand the difference? You're not representing Pakistan. Just as you talk about yourself, the Pakistani, we had a Pakistani woman lawyer. She just talks about herself. She doesn't say, "Hey, I'm representing Pakistan, but this is my life. This is what I do, and this is what I don't do. These are my opportunities." So we're just that's my concept of this as a Desi channel. The people just talk about themselves just as any Indian would, and just as you are not representing India, no one represents India here. We are not a UN body. So that's my concept of this channel. I'm trying very hard to make it a Desi channel. but it has not been very successful. Like nobody from Sri Lanka, nobody from Bhutan, and nobody really from Nepal living in Nepal, only Nepalis outside. So I didn't think of Myanmar, but if you say that it is a Desi country,
Yeah.
then I'll be happy to have some people from there. So that's my comment. Other than that,
Yeah.
if you have any other tips or any other points, please make them now.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I can definitely recommend this channel to my friends, who are working in the same field and they are located in Nepal. I also have a few friends in Myanmar, so I will definitely recommend your channel to them so that
Okay.
they can
I,
contact you or you can contact them.
sure. Okay.
And
So,
yeah, that's it. And my gratitude, I am thankful to you for reaching out to me.
okay.
And this
Let's
was
let's
wonderful,
let's
wonderful
talk about
conversation.
that offline. Let's end it the recording here,
Oh,
and let's
all
talk
right,
about
all
that
right,
offline. I'll be
all
back
right.
with another young person or an expert or a young expert soon. Bye till then, everybody.